Turn to somebody this morning and ask them, have you not heard?
Have you not heard?
You may be seated this morning. Just saying now, not my words, but the scripture, not a prediction of saying one way or the other, but Isaiah does close today by saying that we should fly on the wings of eagles. Just in case you wanted to know which way God might be leaning this afternoon. Just saying. Don't know anything more.
I feel very patriotic, I know.
But Isaiah does a marvelous job of laying it out for us today. We need to understand maybe a little about the context that he's writing in. The people of God that Isaiah is writing to are living in the midst of their exile. They have seen their home nation crushed and turned under. Everything that they thought meant something to them has been destroyed. They are in their worst possible condition. Nothing is going right. And so they are feeling very depressed. They have been stuck now in a foreign country for some years. They don't know what their immigration status is like. They've been there long enough to feel like everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. And seemingly God wasn't doing anything to help them out of it. In fact, they wondered even, was God still alive? Everybody had a pervading feel of doom, a pervading sense that tragedy had overtaken them and that there was just no way out. And there comes the word of the prophet Isaiah, bringing to them a word of hope. A word of encouragement. He needs to make it big. This is not just for one person or one situation. This is for a whole nation. This is for the whole people of God. He needs to speak a word to them that is so large and so expansive that they will understand, because he realizes they need to have their faith and their trust in God restored. Because they've been feeling all this time that maybe even God has been defeated. And so he says to them, as Karen read for us just a moment ago, have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the very beginning? Have you not understood from the beginnings of the earth? Well, of course they had known. They have heard. They have been told, and they should know. But you know what? When you're in the midst of a circumstance that is so difficult, you get to the point and ask yourself the question, is that really real? Is God really with us? Is God really there? I love how Isaiah lays it out, because he says, look, even the rulers that you think are something, I just breathe on them once and they'll be as nothing. Don't be concerned. I have a way, I have a plan. And so as they get to that point, really Isaiah's message to them is, God's got this. It's going to be okay. He says it to us, the creator of the ends of the earth, he does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and he strengthens the powerless. That comes to the whole nation, to the whole people of God. It's not an individual message, but a corporate message to lift up those who felt as a people that they had been defeated. And sometimes we really need that. We need to see the big picture in the midst of everything else that's going on. But sometimes we just need something for us personally too. Sometimes knowing that the big picture is okay, but the question still arises, what about me? Can I give you just a moment of aside? All the events that have been leading forward so well and so quickly, and everything that's been lining up for me as I try to make my move out to my parents. And Terry, you're probably wondering, why didn't I say this on Wednesday? Because it didn't happen until Thursday. Our buyer, his financing isn't working out. We may be back to square one tomorrow. And so I'm thinking well, wait a second, God. But everything, you know what? I said, Jim, right? Sometimes there's roadblocks, there's detours. Look on the front cover of your bulletin, you'll see there's a lot of ways that lead all kinds of places, but there's only one way that says the purpose of God. Sometimes we need something in our own lives because things that are going on are impacting us. There's a wonderful book that I encourage you, if you have never seen it or read it. I actually have never read it, but I've heard different excerpts of it. It's called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. You know it, you've heard it, huh? I mean, this poor guy, just everything you could imagine goes wrong for him. And if we look at our gospel today, we see Jesus coming into the house of Simon. Coming in, and they're going there to accept and receive some hospitality. Only one problem. Simon's mother-in-law, who is running the house, or usually, she is sick. Now I have a quick confirmation question for you. Anybody here remember Simon's mother-in-law's name? Anybody here? Nobody? Nobody remembers? And you think you passed confirmation class? Well, guess what? The reason you don't remember is we're never told. Trick question, huh? We don't know who she is. All we know is that she is his mother-in-law and that she has a fever. In fact, I wish we could read it in the Greek version, because the word for fever that is used here is pyrosessusa. It comes from the same word as pyrotechnic, everything. She is literally burning up with fever. This isn't just we checked the thermometer and she's got an elevated temperature. No. She is burning up. Her insides are churning. This woman is not in good shape. And Jesus comes in. For no one else, with not anybody else on his mind, but he comes into this one woman. And he reaches out her hands. We're not even going to talk about how the fact that a rabbi should never touch someone who's impure, let alone a woman who is impure, for all the implications. Jesus just breaks right through that without a word, without a sign. And then it says that he took her hand and he lifted her. And we hear the word just simply that he lifted her. But the word used again in the Greek is egeron. It's an unusual word. Bless you. It's an unusual word that is not used very much in Greek. It's not used very much in the scriptures. In fact, it is only used one other time by the writer of the Gospel of Mark. Do you know where he used that word? Is in Mark chapter 16, verse 6, where it talks about the events that occurred with this man called Jesus. After he had been in the grave for 3 days, he was lifted up. The same word. He was resurrected. He was brought back to life. Not saying that Peter's mother-in-law was dead, but she was as good as dead. And so in this moment, she is lifted up, and you have to understand there's more going on than just her rising to her feet. Something is happening within her because God has reached out through Jesus and touched her. And the next thing that we see is that she begins to serve in the household. The word for servant there is diakonia. Oh, we've heard that word before. You know, I know we sometimes do interpretations and say, oh yeah, so here's this nameless woman. She can't even be given a name, and all she's good for is to be made whole so she can serve all the men at the table, right? But let's look at it in a different way. To recognize that Jesus has reached into the very depth of her being and raised her up, given her new life. And with that new life, she is now free to serve, to diakonia, to serve others. Because that's our calling, isn't it? Isn't that what God has freed us for? So that we may serve others? Not so that our name can be put up in lights somewhere and that people can say, oh, how great thou art. No, only God gets that. The rest of us in our small little world, when we get stuck with some burning kind of fever, need to just turn to Jesus and let Him lift us up so that we can go into service. Wednesday night, as our Bible study was ending and we came outside, it was January 31st, the last day of the month. January was an interesting month because it had 2 full moons, one on January 1st and the other on January 31st. And so we stood outside Paul and Remy's home, and Terry, I remember you talking and looking at the moon and saying how beautiful it was and how it gave light to everything. And she said to me, do you remember what you said? How can people deny that there is a God when you see something so beautiful? You said one more thing to me that night. Do you remember what it was? The simple things that we say to one another. She says, get home safely. And I did. And you did. But as I'm going up Dykes Road and then Weston Road, sometimes I take a shortcut and go up Shotgun Road. It's actually not shorter, but there's only one traffic light instead of 5 and a lot less traffic, so it's a faster way to go. And as I was going up Shotgun Road, I was one of the first cars that came after a young man with a speed that I can't even begin to imagine, had wrapped his SUV around the telephone pole. It was so bad that when we got to the car and were looking, we said, if there's a passenger, where's the driver? And it turned out the passenger was the driver, but he had been pushed to the other side of the car. And we trying to open the car. This one man who was there, who was a paramedic off duty, who was just a neighbor who had just come out. When the police arrived and others arrived and they started to push us back, I said, I'm a chaplain. Well, I know I'm a pastor, but I thought chaplain would, can I say a prayer? And they said, no, we can't let you do that right now. We don't know, we have to find out. And so I couldn't give him a blessing. I can assure you I've been praying for his family ever since that moment. But you know what? We are called to do whatever we can, and in whatever small way, to use our hands as we have been lifted up, to do whatever it is that we can do. And so this week, and I know she's outside, so I told her ahead of time, and I wish she were able to be in here, but our our dear sister Nancy, you know, in the talents that God has given her in her hands, who can create things out of nothing and make all kinds of things, she has been supporting our dear sister Gisela through her cancer. And so she, with the gifts that she had, made this beautiful sign that says, first round done, first round of treatment done, Gisela 1, cancer 0. And I thought, what a gift. Karen is one of the people who have been supporting Gisela throughout this journey, and others who have been supporting her. Do you know what this is doing for Gisela? It is just transforming her. She has become a warrior. She's not taking this sitting down or resting. She is just going at it full force. And it just says to me that when we have been lifted up from our fever and given new life and new strength, even the little things that we do, the diaconia service things that we share with one another, have such an impact. I may never know if my prayers have touched this family of this young man, but I know that whatever we do as a servant of God makes a difference. And so, along with Isaiah, who says, have you not known, have you not heard? Let me tell you this day, God is with us. God is strengthening us. God is healing us. And we're called in response to serve all of God's people. May God give you that desire and love and service in your heart. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.